Yo, 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 what is up? We are back. This is No Border Sports. I am NoCrypto. I've got my co-host Waruna and my guest, Jonathan. What's up, gentlemen?
It's going pretty good down here in Dallas, Texas. It was an unusual 55 degrees today. That's pretty much enough to kill most people down here in Texas, but we're surviving. We're warming up a little bit. Drinking on some nice, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, some sparkling water.
Pellegrino?
Pellegrino, there you go. I went to Kroger
Yeah.
and splurged a little bit at the Kroger today. I was feeling good.
See, I've always liked with a little bit of lemon. I don't know what it is, but I like water with a little bit of lemon sometimes. Not too much. Sometimes it can leave a bad taste in your mouth after a while. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the weirdest thing about this sparkling water is that it doesn't taste good. And the very first time you have it, you hate it. But something about it gets you addicted to it to where you have to have one a day. I don't understand what it is, but this is my one.
So I know somebody who quit drinking, and instead of drinking, they drank the sparkling waters or the carbonated waters because it kind of gave them that feeling of having a beer.
Might be what it is.
They used to drink while they were installing stuff. It was an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's the best time to drink is on the job. So cool.
No. I did that once. I stabbed myself on accident.
It's not a good idea.
Should never hide 40s underneath the bucket out back of the restaurant as you're doing your shift.
Whatever it takes.
Just saying.
Yes, sir.
I'm not drinking on anything tonight. Waruni, do you have anything? Wasn't a thing. So
yeah. I just had a beer earlier, so yeah.
You want to show people off your nice jersey? I know you showed me. You were because I'm with Cap. He's like, he just sends me this picture. He's like, look at my new jersey. And he's got this like no smile look on his face. And I'm like, a smile or something, like you're happy with it. You know what I mean? It looked like he put it on to show me he was about to return it because he didn't like it. That's what the picture looked like.
Yes. So
yeah. So, what are we doing for topics? Are we just rolling off what we had?
With the draft being so fresh in everybody's mind, it's probably a good place to start.
Yes.
So which drafted players do you see being a day one starter and making an immediate impact? Jonathan?
It's kind of starting with the Cowboys draft. A lot of people were upset at the Tyler Smith pick because we didn't really know who he was. Going into the draft, there was a lot of hype around those top 4 or 5 tackles, and he came pretty late into the process. I think I know I didn't start hearing this name until the week of the draft, and then even the Cowboys said they didn't have him up that high on their list until 3 days before the draft. So when his name got called, a lot of people were surprised. So there was a lot of hate around the pick. But the more and more you get to know the guy, the more and more research you do. Big athletic guy, kind of a project at this time, but you start him off more than likely at left guard or right tackle. He'll come in and be a Lyle Collins replacement, or he'll be at that left guard, kind of like that Ron Leary that we had back in the day. And then eventually the plan is, if you listen to the post-draft press conference with Jerry, the eventual plan is for him to replace Tyron at left tackle. That's probably a good 2 or 3 years away. So he'll have the presence of Zach Martin and Tyron kind of training him, molding his mind and molding his body to be able to take on that role. So, I don't hate the pick, especially at 24. You're really getting the second-round guy at that point anyway. They said there was probably about 15.
So he's just going to sit for 2 years?
Oh, no, he'll play for sure. And that's why I'm saying that that left guard spot or that right tackle spot is where we need the help at. So he's not going to go straight to left tackle. Of course, he's not at Tyron's level. But if he starts he's a big, powerful athlete. They can do a lot more in the run game from that position than we had last year. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. It'll be a good spot for him to get him in there at left guard. If not, he'll be the right tackle. Right now we have a guy, Terrence Steele, over at the right side. He did pretty good last year whenever Lyle was suspended, but if we can definitely upgrade at that spot and get a little more out of it. So I really like the Tyler Smith pick, and hopefully, like I say, he'll be a good 10, 12-year veteran here at Dallas because we always do pretty good getting those offensive linemen.
Yes, you do. Waruna,
Yeah,
you speak on behalf of the Bills or the 49ers?
yeah, I'll speak behalf of the 49ers. Still, I would just try. I mean, I want to make fun at 49ers. But anyway, I just want to piggyback on what this about the Cowboys. I like that pick. The reason is let's just go back to the last season. The very first game when Cowboys fought so hard against the defending champions, one thing we saw is that they got literally bullied with that offensive line when you have good defenses, even in the playoff game against San Francisco. Now, they are like, okay, we have some need, we have a quarterback who still can deliver us to the level that we expect to go to. So let's fix what we have. Yes, even though he's a project, I think you can work him out and eventually you can. Not just the number 24, then they drafted another offensive tackle later in the draft. So they are just basically going for their needs. Okay, this is what we need to do. And I understand that there might be a frustration from the Cowboys fans, the national media about this pick, because the last years the pick that they used with Micah Parsons worked so well because he was basically one of the best talents out of last year's draft class. I mean, for example, if 49ers stayed at 12 without um, moving up to draft Trey Lance and instead drafted Micah Parsons, Jimmy Garoppolo could have been a Super Bowl winner. He's that good. He could have made that difference. Because, I mean, Trey Lance did not made any impact because he was just bench warming. But Micah Parsons would have made that different in terms of what we needed to achieve last year. So I think that that's part of the reason because he was so good last year. So people might have expected, okay, who is the impact player in the first round that we are going to draft this year for the Cowboys? So that might be the reason. But I'm totally okay with this pick because that's something we needed, something in the sense Cowboys needed because you have weapons, you know what to do. So I believe the defense is there because last year Cowboys started to show that they can make turnovers. That's one part of the reasons that Cowboys were successful winning that 12 games, so and so forth. So I agree with that pick. So if he works out, probably, especially given that they are in a division that they have so much leverage. So it's a matter of finding out correct formula to go deep in the playoffs.
I like what you said right there too. You said exactly what we needed. So if you want to be a Cowboys fan, for sure you can take all that stuff down behind you and come on over.
Yes. Yes. I would say okay, Ryan.
I think he has more taste than that. So we had our own little issue. The first 3 picks, all the 49ers fans were like, what the fuck? None of them were needs. They were all wants. But if you look at it, they did a really good job with their number 61 pick in getting that end. He was a steal. Him getting back up to his weight and getting with Chris Kosaric, I mean, he could be, top 10 defensive end for, a decade. You know what I mean? The talent's there. Not saying that he is. The talent's there. But then we had our first pick of the 3rd round, and it was a running back that nobody really knew of or was drafted. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Like, that's how big of it, you know what I'm saying? And he's not a bad running back, but he wasn't worth a 3rd round pick, and he doesn't fit our normal scheme. We've already got running backs that kind of are like him. We don't have that outside edge like the outside edge speed anymore. Raheem Mostert's gone. Debo, whether he gets traded or not, doesn't want to be in that role as much. So we need somebody who can do that. And they did that essentially with their third pick with Danny Gray. Danny Gray you could put him in the backfield and have him use him in those situations to get that outside edge. He's got an issue catching the ball, so you're going to have to toss him the jet sweep and do all that type of stuff, especially with Trey Lance under center, because someone says he catches the ball with his chest. And then they added that and Trey Lance got some speed. Let's see how that works out. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like a lot of balls are going to be just coming right off. You know what I mean? So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, if you're handing them the toss or you're giving them the handoff, it doesn't matter at that point. You know what I mean? The throw is already completed essentially at that point. You know, balls change possession. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It seemed like, I don't know. It seemed like this draft was extremely weird in the fact that there was not a lot of first round grade talent, but there was a lot of second and third and fourth round talent that ended up not being drafted whatsoever and being able to pick up as undrafted free agents. And that to me kind of blew my mind. We're having people who are supposedly projected to go in the third round, like Donovan West, who got signed as an undrafted free agent. You know what I mean? So I think this was a crazy draft, and I think the way people went about it was different because they knew there was a lot of depth, and they knew they could go after people they liked, because after the dust settled and after all the picks were in, if you did enough talking with people, you knew you were going to be the one that they wanted to sign with afterwards. So it gave you a lot more leeway in the draft to be able to go after players that you may not have talked to, but other people are high on them. And you're like, well, I can draft him, and then I can get the guy I've talked to this whole time, and I can get him as an undrafted free agent. I think they did that. The Niners did that with somebody. And, you know, they also, they picked a quarterback in the last pick. Why? Because that was the one person they didn't want to gamble on potentially signing as an undrafted free agent. That was the person out of all the people who are going to be undrafted free agents, that was the one they didn't want to have to bargain with anybody or bid with anybody else over. So it's kind of crazy how things played out this year. I didn't know if you guys had any feelings like that too about this draft, or, you know, any other for instances that might know of.
It was a strange draft altogether. I think it was kind of a result of that COVID year where a lot of guys got that fifth and sixth year of eligibility because they weren't able to play in 2020. So that's why you saw a lot of these players being drafted 24, 25 years old. The Green Bay tackle, I believe, was 25 years old. He'll be 30 by the time his rookie contract is up. So this was just a weird year in general. I mean, you had one quarterback taken at pick 20, I believe. So the next year, the quarterbacks are going to be amazing. So I think a lot of teams that needed a quarterback just sat back and let the board fall how it will fall this year. So you have a lot of older talent as far as the players, and then you have no quarterbacks getting selected. Just a weird draft overall. But like you said, there was a ton of depth as far as that second, third, fourth round. And I think you'll see those guys really show out this year. But as far as the top end of the first, I mean, it's just kind of a crapshoot like it always is. But the blue chip talent didn't seem to be as readily available this year.
Did anybody see? I saw Pat McAfee was talking about something, how USC was paying another team's wide receivers to go through the transfer portal and go to their school, $3 million or something like that.
Yeah. So with the NIL or the players getting paid now for the likenesses, you're going to see a lot more of that. I'm a big fan of the Texas Longhorns. And our top receiver was offered, I believe, $2 or $3 million to go to another school, but he didn't take it. He just stayed back because that's with the emergence of the transfer portal and players getting paid. It's going to happen all the time now. And USC is going to put together a monster team out there because they're going to buy that team. I mean, they basically bought OU's coach, they bought OU's quarterback, they bought Pittsburgh's receiver, and that's gonna probably be the best. That's gonna be the future of college football now. So where can you go? There's a kid going to, I believe it's Oregon. He's coming out. I wish I had to. No, Tennessee. He's going to Tennessee, and he already signed an $8 million NIL deal. So basically, you're gonna have these kids, quarterbacks, making pretty much rookie contracts coming out of high school, especially if $8 million is a starting point. Can you imagine how much Arch Manning is going to get paid when he gets to college? It's going to be amazing.
Well, I'm glad to see that some people are actually finally going to get paid before they blow out their knees. But I think 8 million is a little much,
especially for someone you haven't seen play football yet.
Well, this is the thing. Like, who's paying them? Is the school, or is it like a booster?
And that's one thing I don't have 100% grasp of. But like the booster,
because if it's the school, we need to do something about that, because they're nonprofits. And if you're going to sit here and spend millions of dollars to recruit players, no, we need to stop with this sham. It's just a shame.
But I don't know how you put it back in the box now. I have no clue how you stop this from happening. Now, if you get an 18, 17-year-old kid who's got $8 million to go play football next year, I don't know how you put it back in the box. It's just going to continue to roll and roll and roll. The transfer portal is already out of control, but now money's involved. I guess we'll just see how it plays out.
So coming back to the original topic about 49er draft. So I would say this is another reflection of how badly this offseason went for 49ers, because it started with their miscalculation where they thought, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo will be a hot commodity, that teams would be just lining up in Santa Clara, banging the door. Okay, give us Jimmy. Here's the first round pick, so on and so forth. Never happened. I mean, even Panthers, who people believed until the draft day, even not after the first day, even there was some speculation saying Panthers would trade for Jimmy Garoppolo on the second day of the draft. So that's how delusional the 49er fans and basically the media were. Never happened. So from that point, I believe especially given the fact 49ers had 9 picks in this draft, they never traded up, because I do not understand, especially when you don't have high picks, where your first pick in the draft is number 61, when you have everything. The value of having 9 picks rather than maybe trading up here and there, maybe try to get maximum 5 or 6 draft picks, try to pick up some players that can make a difference. But here, most of these players, I do believe, either going to end up in practice squad. Yes, I believe there will be so many like stories coming out how good this player is, so on and so forth. But I saw the same drama happening last year with Aaron Banks and everyone. But yes, they have time, but they never panned out. So I believe it's kind of a failure of a draft, especially having 9 draft picks, which are not worth. Probably only reasoning that I can think of is after the big mix up with the assumption that Jimmy Garoppolo would get traded early, then they just dialed back. They thought, okay, this is not the time to make anything drastic, so we'll just go along with what we have, and probably we'll take 1 or 2 years to rebuild, because with Trey Lance, he's probably going to struggle this season 2022, maybe 2023. So 2024 might be the year that basically John Lynch said it. We were aggressive last 5 years, but we are dialing back. So this might be the reason, but overall, I'm not happy about overall draft strategy. But on the other hand, they can argue, what can you do with the picks that we had? So that's another reason. But one more thing that
Wait. I think you're underestimating some of these linemen that the 49ers pick it up. If 2 of those offensive linemen can start, which might be plausible, I think you've got a different team that might be even better, even with Trey Lance learning on the fly. As long as you've got Debo there, I'm telling you, because
Okay, here's the reason. 49ers
and the pass
offensive
is going to be
line,
better.
49ers offensive line, apart from Trent Williams, is basically average or below average.
That's why I said if you've got two of those guys
Right?
that come in and become
So
starters,
if there are two guys who will be starters, that doesn't mean they are really good. That will mean that they are better than the below average players, right? That
right?
doesn't mean
I
this
understand
draft
that.
is success.
But you lump those together, and you've only got now one weak link on the team, and it's a lot more to prepare for, and like it opens up the gaps more for the running game.
But I'm not really sure because, again, I usually don't buy the optimism after the draft because last year I heard so many stories, even how Embry Thomas is going to be like Jalen Ramsey kind of a player. That's how 49ers fans believed, even the media and everything, the beat writers and everyone. So that's why I'm not buying that optimism. I'm just curious to see how they are eventually going to end up because unless otherwise you have real credentials that you can point out to, I mean, for sure that you can say a player like Christian Watson drafted by Packers. I'm not going to believe in these players, not because I'm not supporting the team, but just because there is nothing much to see. Because remember, the draft day, even you were talking about for some players, we are unable to find more than 5-minute clips on YouTube. There are
Mhm.
some players who have, we have a need in center, but a player
People
who
go
has
to smaller schools also, so they don't have a lot of footage.
Trey
That's
Lance
another
had.
thing.
But let's
Yes.
move on to the next topic. But I'm saying I'm not that optimistic about this draft, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I'm a fan. I will believe them when they prove it to me. Unless otherwise, I would say
Have
this is
Have you
probably
watched
a draft.
Have you watched Poe's tape? The guard, the undrafted free agent guard that they picked up, Poe. You should watch his tape. He's mean like Trent Williams. He's trying to push you down. He's trying to throw you around. He's nasty. He gonna be a mean man.
I saw a different video. I believe it was shared by Rich Madrid today or yesterday. How he got basically blown up
Who did?
uh, in coverage. I remember he
Poe
posted something. Yes, he
blown up
posted
in
something
coverage.
about Spencer Buford. Yes, he got blown away. Basically, he got smacked into the ground. You can watch it on Twitter.
So there was one clip.
Yes, there is a one clip that he basically posted saying, "This is people who think about Spencer Buford is like replacement for the Trent Williams."
So there was one clip of him getting fallen
Okay,
down once.
believe what you need to, believe what you want to be. Because I saw the same thing last year. Everyone is picking up something and saying, "Okay, this is what it is." Fine, go ahead, believe it. But last year, I didn't see Aaron Banks playing. I didn't see Ambry Thomas panning out the way people thought it to be, even Leno, so and so forth. I can just give you the names. 49ers
I never
70.
saw I never saw Aaron Banks throw people though.
No, that's what I'm saying. Because people making so many assumptions that these players are going to be really good, but end of the day, they just be that either that third round pick or fourth round pick, or maybe just proving that 49ers overreach. That's it.
Okay.
So, I mean, Jonathan, I would want to ask your opinion. What do you think about 49ers draft?
I haven't dug too far into the 49ers draft, but I will say I really like Danny Green, SMU guy, played down the street here in Dallas. And Shanahan loves those guys with yards after catch as far as the yak. And that's what he fits that perfect mode. But like you say, he does struggle to catch the ball, it feels like. But if you can just scheme him up right, put him in that Debo role, give some reverses, some screen games, he has that ability to break the ball down the field. And of course, you have that NIU, Debo, and Kittle already. But it wouldn't hurt to add that on top of it too. But I haven't dug in.
Danny Grace, he's got that vision. Like he can see He's looking like from up top down at the field, and he knows exactly where to run it before. But he's, you can see it from down here instead of, he's got some good vision.
Kind of eyes in the back of his head. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. Drafting the running back there early didn't make quite too much sense, but same thing he did with Trey Sermon. I don't understand why you drafted him that early, and then he played 3 times. So. And I'm a big fan of it.
Trey Sermon was a little more understandable because he had a little bit more name recognition. He'd been in the bigger games. It seemed to me like Trey Sermon was a little more understandable. This one, I was like, who?
And then he got to camp, and Shanahan just immediately hated him. So I'm not a guy that looks at it like you say a half empty. I'm always a half full guy. So I want to see the best for the kids. So I'm always going to be. I think Jerry Jones did that to me. He gave him the Jerry Poppins. Everything is great. Everything is beautiful. So I want to see him do good. And plus, you got a good head coach, and Shanahan is going to scheme these guys up right. He's always going to keep you competitive. So that's one thing you can always count on with that coach, that he'll keep you competitive. So I'm excited to see what Green can do. And other than that, I guess we got to see where Trey Lance goes, because Trey Lance is that quarterback with that amount of talent and that ceiling of his that can always make you competitive, kind of like a Lamar Jackson, to where if he's playing to the height of his ability, he can carry the team. But we have to see that happen before we get too far out ahead of ourselves.
So I want to ask jump back to the Cowboys draft.
Huh?
Number 88 overall, Jalen Tolbert. What kind of impact that he will make? Because now they needed a wide receiver talent, definitely. And Cowboys are one of the exciting offenses to watch in football. So what's the role he has to play?
Yeah, you got a guy from a smaller school, so it's kind of to be seen what he can do against the better competition. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in preseason and camp and see how he stacks up against NFL talent. But one of the things I keep hearing about him that I really like is that he has that attitude. One thing the Cowboys team seems to be lacking for the last 2 decades is that attitude, that dog, or that, not to where you're going to get taunting penalties, because we definitely don't need that, but that lean on me, I can do it. Kind of like Dez Bryant had. I take that back. Dez Bryant had that same attitude, that same dog in him. And that's what Tolbert has. I don't know if he has that talent level, but he seems to bring that attitude. And he's already spoken with Dak Prescott before the draft, which is encouraging. So they already have kind of a relationship building there. And his whole attitude coming in is that I'm going to change the attitude of this team. I'm going to change the way we come off the bus and approach the opponent. So I can't wait to see that. And he's a long kid too, big reach, big hands. And he compares well to a Michael Gallup. And Gallup is coming off of an injury, so we may be without him to start the season. So it's nice to have someone that has that same skill set as far as the length, the jumping ability, the 50-50 ball, bringing a little attitude into it too. So I'm really excited to see what he can do.
And I have one more question back. Since we started with the number 24 pick, let's say if you did not draft an offensive tackle, was there any other player that you would have drafted at number 24?
Oh, let me think, because there was someone that everyone was so mad that we didn't draft. Oh yeah, the kid out of Florida State. People were really mad that we didn't draft him. Jermaine Johnson, I believe was his name, pass rusher. But to take it to the 56th pick, we got Sam Williams there. I know we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. They wanted him in San Francisco, but he's going to have that same pass rusher. He's going to be a dedicated pass rusher for us. And I think that's who people wanted in the first round, was that Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State. But kind of like we touched on a second ago, I believe he's 24, 25 years old. So he was also a pretty much not a victim, but a result of that COVID year, to where he got pushed back a year. And it's just hard to draft a guy that, like I say, he's going to be on his rookie contract when he's 30 years old. So I wasn't too upset about not having him there. So Tyler, thank you for saying that. Tyler Smith is going to be a beast. I mean, just a big physical young kid. He tested really well at the combine. I believe he was in the 90th percentile as far as his 48-yard dash at that size. And he's a big bully too when you watch his tape out there. He's going to have to control those hands a lot better. He hugs too much. He's going to get called for some holding penalties, so that's not good. But if we can start him off with that left guard and just let him clear some space out for Zeke's last year, it'll be nice to see.
Right.
So is there any position you don't think they addressed either enough or at all in the draft for the Cowboys. Because the way I see it is, if you know you got to get somebody, you draft at least 2 in that position. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. And was there a position where you think they only drafted 1, so they're like putting all their eggs in his basket, or is there one they didn't even touch on at all, and you think they might be trying to make another free agency move?
So basically, what the Cowboys do, and kind of touched on this a couple of weeks ago, is that they'll fill every hole that we have as far as needs, and they'll get those 1-year guys, the veterans, and no one's thinking, kind of like a J-Ron Curse last year. No one was thinking about J-Ron Curse, and by the end of the season, he was one of the better safeties in the NFL. So that way, when we draft, we have the luxury of picking like a Michael Parsons. Even though you have Van Der Esch and you have Jalen Smith, you'd pick Michael Parsons because he's the best available player, and all of a sudden he's Rookie of the Year. So that's kind of the approach we had this year too. Our needs, if we're being honest, was that left guard and right tackle, because we had 2 guys there. Connor Williams, he left, and then Lyle Collins left. So we had guys who played last year, and Connor McGregor, and we had Terrence Steele on the right tackle. But both of those guys can be upgraded, and that's what Tyler Smith is going to come and do. He's going to have that competition. He's going to upgrade those positions. So I think it was a perfect pick for what we needed. And it was hard picking at 24 because you're watching all the receivers, all the offensive linemen, everyone fall off the board right before we pick. But if you believe Jerry Poppins, he said that Tyler Smith was ahead of Keon Green and he was ahead of Zion Johnson. If that's the case, then we got a guy that's supposed to be better than the 15th overall pick. So I like what we did a lot, and I appreciate the comment. Tyler Smith is going to be a beast. I believe in him.
So I have one more question.
Swan is our resident draft king.
So at pick 129, so you picked a tight end. Now, I would have drafted a running back because I'm not happy with the production level of Ezekiel Elliott. So I would have drafted a running back. What do you think about? Don't you need another running back that can pound hard and get you over the line when you need it to be?
And that's the good thing about having a Tony Pollard on deck. And whenever Tony Pollard touched the field, the entire offense changed as far as the speed, the catching ability. He played wide receiver in Memphis, so he's transitioning to running back in the NFL. And you can see he brings that same skill set there. So when you have Zeke and you have Tony, and there was a young kid, I don't know if you watched the Hard Knocks, I can't remember his name, where he had the dreadlocks and the glasses. Hardy, I believe, was his last name. And he did well in spot duty too. But you can always kind of find that third running back when the preseason is over, because somebody's going to get rid of a running back. I think y'all got like 7 of them there now. So someone's going to be free after the preseason that we can plug in. But Tony Pollard and Zeke are a perfect 1-2 punch. I like that a lot. So I'm okay without drafting a running back this year. Now, next year, when Zeke's contract is able to be cut, for sure we have to draft a running back. We have to draft a workhorse at that point too, because I don't think Tony Pollard has shown the ability to carry the ball 20, 30 times a game, because he is coming from that wide receiver role, more of a scat back, more of a Alvin Kamara role. But we'll have to have a little more thunder to go with his lightning next year.
Right.
Just do running back by committee. It's a great way to save money too.
Agreed 100%.
You draft well, or you get vets that are getting that minimum check to fill out your stable, and then you let somebody else pay them. I don't necessarily like that, but that's how it goes in that situation. And then you've always got fresh blood coming in. It's not like you guys have a real crazy system like the Shanahan system, where you need people who can run that, know how the whole system is, the terminology and all that type of stuff, everything, what means what, all that type of stuff. So I mean, yeah, running back by committee, man.
Another thing to look at, Baltimore last year. Whenever Baltimore, they lost every running back they had on the roster, basically, once the preseason started. They went out and picked up 4 veterans and still almost made the playoffs. So that's, like I said, there's always going to be that third, fourth guy you can pick up after the preseason, kind of like
this is the other thing too. If you notice with running backs, like, they'll be hot their first, second year, maybe third year, and then it's like they get figured out, or they get slowed down by getting beat up so much. You know what I mean? And the more you can take advantage of that, the better. You know what I mean? If you're drafting a running back every year, you know what I mean, and he's coming out and doing hot, you know what I mean, doing his thing. Who cares if he does it next year? I'm drafting another running back. He's going to have another hot. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like certain players, like when they come out, they're pretty hot, and then like defenses kind of figure out the look of how they go, you know, how deep they get down where they're about to cut left. You know what I mean? They get them figured out, and that's when their production goes down. Same thing with like being beat on a little bit. You know what I mean? It's rough being a running back, especially running up the middle.
Yeah, I think it's more than anything, it's that mileage too, and more with these guys, especially if you look at the running backs coming out of Alabama, they just come to the league already so beat up. And of course, that's a bad thing to say when you see Derrick Henry running over everybody week after week after week. But eventually, like just like with Derrick Henry, he showed that he is immortal and he can get hurt. But it's a good quality to have as far as you say keeping their running back room fresh but you do have to acknowledge that there are guys, the Alvin Kamara's, Christian McCaffrey's, that have a special skill set that you have to pay for. But also, once the injuries happen, it's just it's a bad look right now over these past 2 years because every running back they got paid just about got hurt immediately after they got paid.
That's why I want them to get paid while they're doing well. I think that's perfectly fair. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then make it so it doesn't count against the cap. You know what I mean? Boom. They're under the contract for this, but they played like this. Boom, they get paid like this. You don't get hit for it. You still get hit for what you originally signed them under. Perfect, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think, you know, because it's just not fair to the teams or the players, because the teams should be able to, you know, not be able to move on from somebody when they're no longer desirable, essentially, to what their needs are at the time. And at that point, some young man who just gave everything to the team for the last year shouldn't be just thrown to the wayside for some minimum contract. You know what I mean? So I think they really should start figuring out how to get some of these rookies started paying them well as they're doing well without hurting the teams. It's not like it's, you know, 8 million extra is going to kill an owner of a team. If that's the case, you shouldn't be owning a team of football. You know what I mean?
I think the worst example of that was DeMarco Murray. In 2014, he was Offensive Player of the Year, and we knew that was his last year with the team, and we ran him absolutely into the ground. And then next year, he went to Philadelphia, and he fell off a cliff because we didn't pay him. And that's when we drafted Zeke in 16, and then the story's been good ever since then for Zeke. But you didn't hear from DeMarco Murray anymore, and he was the Offensive Player of the Year. That we handed him the ball some irate amount of time. And then as soon as we were done with him, we just kicked him to the side. And they knew that was the game plan too. And that's the sad part about it. I think we discussed this maybe a month or two ago about maybe with running backs just having a certain percentage that they count against the cap. And that way you can pay that position more, kind of like they deserve, because they're getting hit every single play. That mileage is not going to be there for them. They have a short shelf life. And they also are so important to your game plan that they deserve to be paid well. So hopefully somebody in the next CBA will speak up on behalf of that group. But, I mean, you have middle linebackers are going to want it, and the safeties are going to want it. But the running backs, I do feel
but I don't see – you don't see the fall off that much except for, like, cornerbacks. You know what I mean?
As far as –
cornerbacks, like production under their rookie contract versus their first big contract. You know what I mean? Not all cornerbacks fall off then, but it's getting a cornerback off of when he gets off his rookie contract. They cost a lot, especially a good one, and they could be worth it for their whole contract, or they might not. You know what I mean? Because it's so hard to be a corner and you have that speed, agility, all that stuff, and then, you know, not have injuries. So, you know, cornerback would be another position I think that would be definitely should be talked about also.
I know Xavier Rhodes was a good example of that.
Quarterback. and quarterback, just for the fact that it is like the most important position on the offense. You know what I mean? Essentially, of the whole team. You know what I mean? It's the most important position of the whole team. Because, like, on defense, you can swap certain people out calling calls, right? You can, and they could still be productive. But once you start messing around with the quarterback, you know what I mean? There's issues. You can swap out a center. There might be issues, but there'll be less issues than you swapping out a quarterback. So I could see those, but other than that, everybody else, no. Everything's fine. You know, edge rushers.
Yeah.
Is
So
there any other position?
switch back to the topic, Ryan. So we are just deviating off here. So coming back, one important question I needed to ask from every one of you. Overall, yes, Jets had so many picks, Lions had picks, but overall, who do you think won this draft, given that strength of their team and finally stacking up? Who won the draft?
And it hurts me to say it, but Philadelphia. For me, Philadelphia, you get A.J. Brown. It has to be pretty much counted into your draft because you traded a first-round pick for it. You're getting the Kobe Dean, fell to the third. He was a projected top 20 pick for the entire situation. Then it came out a few injuries before the draft that kind of pushed him down. And then Jordan Davis is going to change the face of your defensive line. Imagine just being able to pick up Vince Wilfork and put him in the middle of your defense for the next 10 years. So I think Philadelphia did a really, really good job. They have to figure out that quarterback position, if Jalen's going to be their guy going forward, or if they're going to have to replace him. But that has a really good union around them right now. I've heard quite a few people say that that's going to be Tom Brady's next stop next year because that team is already ready-made for him. So I hate to say it as a Cowboys fan, but Philadelphia killed this draft.
So to me, there were like three teams, but out of Jets, Ravens, and Packers. Jets, I'm still doubtful because they have a quarterback still unproven. Ravens, yes, because that's what I basically thought. Yes, I agree with your point, the players that they have, but Ravens has a better quarterback, better coach. So with the draft picks that incoming, so they can do much better, especially given the fact if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy throughout the season. But the team that I'm going to pick,
Fourth round picks.
yes,
That was crazy because it's not necessarily fourth round picks. They were getting like second and third round picks. You know what I'm saying? Like a normal, like tier quality people. I think they were getting like second and third round picks with all that. That was a major haul. They got to pick everybody they wanted.
And I don't know why we let Baltimore do this every year, but it's the same story every single year. They just pick the best players. It doesn't seem like that hard of a concept, but they do it every year, and they kill the draft every single year. And they just look at their board. This player should have went 20 picks ago. Let's pick them here. And every year it works out perfectly for them.
So the team that anyway I would pick is Packers because given that they addressed what they needed. They got a linebacker, they got a offensive tackle position, then they got Christian Watson. So three very good players to address all their needs. As long as Rodgers is here, given the fact that NFC is wide open, it's just a matter of Rodgers staying healthy. He usually stays healthy, and give him that extra protection as well as some weapons for him to just connect. So yeah, that's why I'm picking Packers to be the winners of this draft because they have everything. They just needed some weapons, the tools.
They needed two good wide receivers in this draft.
Yes. So Ryan, who is the team that you think won the draft? So basically, I picked Packers. You picked the Eagles, Jonathan. So what is your pick?
I'm going with Jets.
Okay.
Because right out the gate, it seemed like they were. Oh, what up, Camp? It seemed like they were going all in. You know what I mean? They knew what they needed. They were addressing it. It's like every time they picked somebody in the first 4 rounds, it seemed like it was a splash move, even though, it wasn't. It just what it meant to their team if that player pans out. I mean, um, they've got something good going over there. If I could see them having an, almost a 500 season this year, maybe, with what the potential that they have there now. That doesn't mean they'll get there. They might have a lot of close games. They might be like the Detroit Lions last year. You know what I mean? The Detroit Lions were in it in so many games, and heartbreaking losses right at the end. And that could be it for the Jets. But I'm sure Saleh will stay because people see how things are changing, and they're buying in. You know what I mean? So I think the Jets killed it. We'll see how well their record is this year. If I was right. If the Ravens, that's my other team that I was going to say, but if the Ravens don't, kill it this year, then they suck because they had a lot of chance to do amazing things. And I'm sorry, my bad. You hear the camper report agrees with you.
And basically, word for word, I love that take. It's basically word for word. I don't know if you were in the room a second ago, but yeah, that's basically what I said too. They did a great job. So, as a Cowboy fan, it hurts to admit it, but I think we're still better at the one position that counts as far as the quarterback position. But the rest of that team is they're stacked over there, and Jordan Davis cannot be slept on. He's going to be next to Fletcher Cox. Come on, that's almost should be illegal, but. I'm really looking forward to seeing that team, especially they've invested into Jalen to see what they have in him. He played good last year. A lot of people were down on him the year before, but last year he showed that he can get that team to the playoffs. And then when they played Tampa, he looked overmatched. So they poured assets into that offense around him and say, hey, this is your opportunity right here. You got to put up or shut up. You can either be the next 100 million quarterback or you can be the afterthought. So we'll see what he does. I'm rooting for the guy, really am.
And they're in a position where they can go and get themselves a nice quarterback next year if they want to. Yes. They can move up in the draft and not essentially lose too much going forward. They got a lot of capital they can spend right now, which is really handy. So you're not hampering yourself. You can start addressing needs after that point. And that's one thing the Niners weren't able to do this year with a first round pick. But I think they did all right with what they were doing. Like I feel the quality of the players. We might have a crazy team next year. We'll see how it plays out.
And you're talking about the Jets draft. There was talk about the Jets trying to trade number 10 for Debo. How did y'all feel about that?
Just get out of here with all that crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, how to put this? How are you coming at me with like a first and a second, and then I send you Debo in a fifth or something like that? Get out of here. Like, it's not even worth my time. Like, he's not for sale, right? I'm not trading him, right? So for you to pique my interest, you got to give me at least another first. You know what I mean? At least. And personally, I was saying 2 firsts, 2 seconds. That was the price for me.
This is Deshaun Watson.
Okay, can I answer that?
No, it's not Deshaun Watson. That's Russell Wilson. Deshaun Watson was more.
So right there, what I want to do is after the show, cut that segment, that like 30-second clip what you said, and put it out. See how delusional 49er fans are.
I'm not saying that was the value. I'm just saying I'm not selling. You want to pique my interest? That's what piques my interest. Other than that, don't call me. Don't call me.
Why that argument is wrong, literally wrong. It's not that other teams in the league thought, okay, what if we trade for Deebo Samuel? No. The 49ers started whole year. They started this drama. Deebo Samuel started this drama. Then Lynch publicly said, yes, there is a situation, so on and so forth. So what would you do? Okay, it seems like Deebo is available, so let's give them a reasonable offer. What do you think? So don't just make fun of Jets saying, oh, they undermined us. if you think Jets undermined Debo Samuel with that offer, then pay Debo Samuel highest wide receiver in the league, like 28 million per year. You are not willing to pay him as well. At the same time, you are saying to other teams, if you are willing to trade for Debo Samuel, give us the best that you have, like whatever the draft capital you would spend for a quarterback. No, it's not going to happen. 49ers did the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember the name that you guys said that there would be a first round pick available for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, not even a team willing to give you a sixth round pick. So please get out of whatever the bubble that you guys are living in.
Earn 5% on travel purchase through Chase.
Right? So please get out
Right.
of that bubble you guys are living in. Come back to the real world. So I think that offer was reasonable. I'm not
It's
sure.
reasonable for the value of a wide receiver. Do you understand that? For a reasonable trade that somebody wants to trade a player. That's reasonable. Yes. I'm not saying it isn't. What I'm saying is, hold on a second. Jonathan. You got that new rookie Parsons. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Hey. How about I get him off you for a first round pick?
I don't think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. But Parsons also isn't requesting a trade publicly.
Oh no. Who cares what he's thinking? I want him, right?
Uh-huh.
So do you want to give him up?
I mean, it depends on the offer. I don't think we're going to give him up for.
It depends on the offer. Okay, so tell me what piques your interest. What would first and a third do it?
I don't know, man. With that age and the fact that he was Defensive Player of the Year, that I don't foresee it happening. I don't know. I think it's a bad comparison with Parsons because Parsons hasn't publicly requested a trade. Kind of like he was saying, there's not.
Parsons also hasn't shown more than one season.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
There's not blood in the water as far as there's not blood in the water as far as him wanting out of town and on Instagram.
But that doesn't matter if you still don't want to sell him in the end, right?
Okay.
What does all that matter? That's my business to deal with. That's my business to deal with.
From the argument. That's why 49ers said, Debo said, there is a situation. I'm not happy with the team. So if that is the case, right? No, you are just sidestepping from the argument. He hasn't trade. Cowboys hasn't said that we are going to trade him. No. So this is a different situation. Think about this. You have a car.
It doesn't matter what Debo wants. It matters that the Jets want Debo, right?
No, you are sidestepping
from Parsons.
Be logical
I want Parsons.
A moment. Be logical for a moment.
Not going to happen.
You can name it whatever the price you want. But then there is another person who says, okay, I'm done with this car. I'm going to sell it. Then people would come at you with a reasonable offers. That's what happened over here. So don't try to compare it with some other, I'll call bullshit, right? I'll call bullshit. So don't give some bullshit.
What?
To just be the sake of the argument. So there was whole drama. There was whole drama created by 49ers. The front office combined with Debo Samuel. Other teams came up with a reasonable offer. That's what happened. So if you don't like the offer, then say, okay, we don't like the offer, but don't disrespect other teams. Okay, they didn't value our player. You are the ones that didn't value your player. There is a reason that Debo Samuel requested a trade. Address that
they
issue.
Said King's ransom. You're going to come with just a regular trade after they said King's ransom?
I'm trying to see.
And then the Jets are going to say, oh, a deal you cannot refuse. It seemed like it was real easy to refuse it.
What did Tyreek Hill get traded for? I know it was a first-round pick.
He got
it was
one first round, 2 first round picks,
no,
and couple of altogether 5 picks. Altogether 5 picks.
Hold on. The value of the package was essentially worth the 13th pick in the draft, if I remember correctly. The 13th or the 14th pick in the draft. That's essentially what the package was valued at.
So Debo going for the 10th pick in the draft would be pretty much in line, well, better than what they got for Tyreek.
it would be a little bit better. Right. A little bit. Can't refuse. That's so much more over than other people that you can't, there's no way you can refuse that. Seems real easy. Because look, this is what you're talking about, okay? Deebo Samuel. I have to essentially, with how the drafting players go, I have to draft 4 people to make up for him. Because 2 of them are probably going to whiff. It'd be great if all of them hit, but 2 of them are probably going to whiff. I need a running back and a wide receiver with the same kind of skills and talents, right? So you don't know what you're getting.
And I think that's why the whole situation, or what I've heard at least, is about him playing running back, is that he wants to be paid for taking on that additional risk as a running back too. So you would have to pretty much be ready to make that offer that he wants to make him happy. But it sounds like, from what last I heard, was that Lynch said is that the situation can be fixed. So I'm thinking money might be the situation that's going to fix it.
I like the point here Swan Song has brought up. Adam and Tyreek had no more years left on their contract, right? To the point where they could have just not done the deal and just got him on the open market later. You know what I mean? If need be. Deebo Samuel's not necessarily the same thing, because what the 49ers can do.
As far as the franchise tag or the...
Yeah. And, picking up his option and making him play out his rookie contract and doing all that stuff. There's stuff that could be done. I'm just saying. And I don't agree with any of that. Yeah. So it's not necessarily the same situation. It's essentially for the both. One team's trying to get, the other one's trying to get rid of because of a certain situation. The 49ers will expand their cap just to keep Deebo because of his weapon. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're saying that I'm not being reasonable. I might not be being reasonable. And the reason is I'm not trying to come to the table for a deal. Therefore, I don't have to be reasonable. You know why? Because we're not talking about something in a world where I care about you wanting to get what I have.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I totally understand you don't want to do the deal, but then don't go and say, hey, this person said this much. Don't go and say that. Just say, okay, there was a trade offer, but given the situation, we need Tebow. We are not going to do that. That's it. But 49er fans are like, oh, Jets disrespected 49ers.
Who cares what the fans say?
Go and watch on Twitter. Go read some tweets that 49ers are putting out over there. So
the 49ers, the
so because we are part of 49er fan base, because we are part of that. So that's what all I'm saying.
Okay.
But let's move on from that topic. So the final topic of the day. So because we can go hours. So Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Draft picks and fantasy. So who are the players that will be in your fantasy football teams?
All right. And I hope no one's watching this. It's going to be in my leagues, but
yes, me too.
So I'm a big fan of Chris Olave. Kind of wanted him in Dallas, but we knew we were out of range at 24. He's going to step into New Orleans, and then he's going to play opposite of Michael Thomas. So he's going to play that slot role. He was the most NFL-ready receiver as far as the separation, route running, just the maturity at the position. He started over Jameson Williams. So basically, he's already shown that he has that elite talent, and he's going to have Jameis Winston throwing him the ball. And we know that Winston he's going to feed you regardless. He's going to feed you or the defense, one of the two, whoever wants it. So I think Olave, really good pick. Pick him a little later. And then also in Tennessee, they were willing to give up A.J. Brown because they had Treylon Burks on their radar. And they're just pretty much going to plug him into that same role. So they're going to feed him kind of in the Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown role, where they're going to give him the short passes and hope that he can break off those 70, 80-yard runs, which is his strong suit anyway, is breaking off those big runs after catching the pass. Big physical guy. So I'm really looking at Burks. I'm looking at Olave as late-round picks that people may not be paying attention to that could pay off big for you.
So
Who is
Yeah.
your pick?
Christian Watson. You're talking about one of the biggest targets on Aaron Rodgers' team for him now. You know what I mean? It might take a second for him to come out, but that might be a thing. Also, heard some rumblings like the Chiefs are changing their offense and they're going to go kind of more to a little bit of a run based. It sounds like Kels is talking about, or Khalees or whatever, is talking about trying to be like a George Kittle. And he wants to, I think they want to try and mimic the 49ers offense a little bit at times. So they just drafted a nice running back, and they've got Edwards-Helaire or whatever. Isn't that right?
Yeah, from the last year.
So I might pick up both those guys. You know what I mean? Because if they're going to be trying to run more so they can throw more, essentially, without Tyreek being around, you know what I mean? Because you take away that threat, and you might want to start now running the ball a little bit more. Because you got one less of those major talents running around on the field for you.
Okay.
But that's what I see.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to pick Christian Watson because I believe Rogers is going to connect him. But I would... Now, I have a kind of a surprise pick. Usually, I like to draft quarterbacks late in fantasy leagues. I might pick Kenny Pickett because I think with the Steelers, anyway, you are going to, I mean, score points, right? So I think that's gonna, because I believe again, most of the people will think, okay, no, because they don't realize the name. He's not a big name yet, so they might just forget about that he does even exist. So that's the other name that I'm going to pick as my quarterback.
I don't think you shouldn't bet against Trubisky. That's a mistake. The great
Hey.
and powerful.
No, I just have a feeling that it's a touch and go.
Right.
Are we going to have to do our own fantasy league this year? A No Border Sports fantasy league?
I gotta stop talking right now. Then I'm pretty much I call dibs on Olave and Burks.
There's nothing of the thing that happens like that. I'm sorry.
I'm picking Kenny Pickett first round too.
That's fine. Please. I was like, at first I was like, hey, Waruna, we should get on a fantasy, in a fantasy football group together. And then I thought, well, maybe we should just have one for the whole channel.
Yes.
And Swan can get in on it, and E Kim, and have everybody in there and talk about our fantasies.
So we believe that's probably it for the day that we wanted to discuss. So anything else, gentlemen, that you want to add? It was heated today.
No, kind of piggyback on what you said with Kenny Pickett. I'm excited to see what he can do. I know there was a lot of buzz that Trubisky was going to be a hot commodity this year, and they did pay him pretty good. But if Kenny Pickett can come in there and surprise him in the preseason, he may pull off kind of what Roethlisberger did his rookie year. Strong defense, Najee Harris behind him. You got the big receivers out there, so he may be able to pull something off with those little bitty tiny hands. He may produce some good fantasy points for us. I like that pick.
As far as the training camps goes, if I hear the news that he has a chance to be the starter, then I'm definitely going to pick him as my quarterback.
Got you.
Ryan, so do you want to wrap up?
Sure. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Swan, thanks for being in the chat. Have my back, because Waruna obviously doesn't understand how negotiations work.
Okay.
I'm joking. Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming on.
Always.
Waruna, it's always a pleasure. Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find you. I've got your link in the Twitter, or your Twitter in the description, so people can find you. But shout out everybody, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm not a big social media guy, so yeah, I need to do better with my presence on social media. But eventually, I will have that Twitter handle and YouTube page up. But appreciate y'all having me on. This is always real good conversation. I enjoy it a lot.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.